The Jerusalem Bible, Exodus 38:21 through 31. Here is the account of metals used for the tabernacle of the testimony. The account drawn up by order of Moses, the work of the Levites under the direction of Ithamar, son of Aaron the priest. Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, made all that Yahweh had directed Moses to have made. His partner was Oholiab, son of Ahishamach, of the tribe of Dan, engraver, damask weaver, embroiderer in purple stuffs of violet shade and red, in crimson stuffs and fine linen. The amount of gold used in the work, the entire work for the sanctuary, this was gold consecrated by offering, was 29 talents and 730 shekels, reckoning by the sanctuary shekel. The silver collected when the census of the community was taken weighed 100 talents and 1,775 shekels, reckoning by the sanctuary shekel. 1 bekah per head, 1/2 a shekel, reckoning by the sanctuary shekel, for everyone of 20 years and over included in the census. These numbers 603,550. The 100 talents of silver were used for casting the sockets for the sanctuary and for the veil, 100 sockets out of the 100 talents, or 1 talent per socket. With the 1,775 shekels he made the hooks for the post, the plating for their capitals and their rods. The bronze consecrated by offering amounted to 70 talents and 2,400 shekels, and with this he made the sockets for the entrance of the tent of meeting, the bronze altar with its grating of bronze, and all the furnishings for it, the sockets for the enclosure of the court, those for the gateway to the court, all the pegs for the tabernacle, and all the pegs for the court enclosure. The Jerusalem Bible, Exodus chapter 39. The vestments of the high priest. From the purple stuffs, violet shade and red, the crimson stuffs, and the fine linen, he made sumptuous vestments for service in the sanctuary. He made the sacred vestments for Aaron, as Yahweh had directed Moses. The ephod. They made the ephod of gold, purple stuffs, violet shade and red, crimson stuffs, and fine twined linen. They beat gold into thin plates, and cut these into fine strips to weave into the purple stuffs, violet shade and red, into the crimson stuffs and the fine linen, as does the weaver of damask. For the ephod they made 2 shoulder straps joined to it at its 2 ends. The woven band on it to hold it formed one piece with it, and was of similar workmanship. This was of gold, purple stuffs, violet shade and red, crimson stuffs, and fine twined linen, as Yahweh had directed Moses. They fastened the onyx stones mounted in settings of gold mesh, and engraved, as a seal is engraved, with the names of the sons of Israel. They fastened the stones to the shoulder straps of the ephod, stones commemorating the sons of Israel, as Yahweh had directed Moses. The pectoral of judgment. They made the pectoral, finely brocaded, of the same workmanship as the ephod, of gold, purple stuffs, violet shade and red, and fine twined linen. It was square, and they doubled it over, a span in length and a span in width. In this they set 4 rows of stone, sard, topaz, carbuncle for the first row, emerald, sapphire, diamond, the second row. The third row, hyacinth, ruby, amethyst. The fourth row, beryl, onyx, jasper. These were mounted in settings of gold mesh. They bore the names of the sons of Israel, and, like their names, were 12 in number. They were engraved as seals are, each with the name of one of the 12 tribes. For the pectoral they made chains of pure gold twisted like cords. They made 2 gold rosettes and 2 gold rings, and they fastened the 2 gold cords to the 2 rings fixed on the corners of the pectoral. The other 2 ends of the cords they fastened to the 2 rosettes. They were thus attached to the shoulder straps of the ephod on the front. They made 2 gold rings and fixed them to the 2 lower corners of the pectoral, on the inner hem next to the ephod. And they made 2 more gold rings and fixed them low down on the front of the 2 shoulder straps of the ephod, close to the join, above the woven band of the ephod. They secured the pectoral by passing a ribbon of violet purple through its rings and those of the ephod, so that the pectoral would sit above the woven band and not come apart from the ephod, as Yahweh had directed Moses. The robe. Then they made the robe of the ephod woven entirely of violet purple. The opening of the center of it was like the neck of a coat of mail. Round the opening was a border to keep the robe from tearing. The lower hem of the robe they decorated with pomegranates of purple stuffs, violet shade and red, crimson stuffs, and fine twined linen. They also made bells of pure gold, and placed them all around the lower hem of the robe between the pomegranates. Bells and pomegranates alternately all round the lower hem of the robe of office, as Yahweh had directed Moses. The vestments of the priest. Then they made the tunics of finely woven linen for Aaron and his sons, the turban of fine linen, the headdresses of fine linen, the breeches of fine linen, the girdles of fine twined linen, of purple stuffs, violet shade and red, and of crimson stuffs, finely embroidered, as Yahweh had directed Moses. They also made the plate, the holy diadem, of pure gold, and engraved on it, consecrated to Yahweh, as a man engraves a seal. They attached to this a ribbon of violet purple, to secure it to the top of the turban, as Yahweh had directed Moses. So all the work of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, was completed. In carrying it out, the sons of Israel had done exactly as Yahweh had directed Moses. They brought to Moses the tabernacle, the tent and all its furnishings, its hooks, frames, crossbars, pots, posts, sockets, the covering of ram skins dyed red, the covering of fine leather, and the screening veil, the ark of the testimony with its shafts, and the throne of mercy, the table with all its furnishings, and the loaves of offering, the lampstand of pure gold with its lamps, the lamps that were to be set on it, and all the accessories, the oil too, for the light, the golden altar, the chrism, the fragrant incense, the screen for the entrance to the tent, the bronze altar with its grating of bronze, its shafts and all its furnishings, the basin and its stand, the hangings of the court, its posts, its sockets, and the screen for the gateway to the court, its cords, its pegs, and all the furniture for the service of the tabernacle in the tent of meeting, the scrumptious vestments for service in the sanctuary, sacred vestments for Aaron the priest, and vestments for his sons, for the priestly functions. The sons of Israel had done all the work exactly as Yahweh had directed Moses. Moses examined the whole work, and he could see they had done it as Yahweh had directed him, and Moses blessed them. The Jerusalem Bible, Exodus chapter 40. The sanctuary erected and consecrated. Yahweh spoke to Moses and said, "On the first day of the first month you are to erect the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, and place the ark of the testimony in it, screening it with the veil. Bring in the table, arranging what is to be set in order on it. Bring in the lampstand too, and set up its lamps. Place the golden altar of incense in front of the ark of the testimony, and set up the screen at the entrance to the tabernacle. Place the altar of holocaust in front of the entrance to the tabernacle, the tent of meeting. Place the basin between the tent of meeting and the altar, and fill it with water. Set up the enclosure of the court, and hang the screen at the gateway of the court. Then, taking the chrism, anoint the tabernacle and everything in it, consecrating it with its furniture to make it a holy place. Anoint the altar of holocaust with all its furnishings, and consecrate the altar, which henceforth will be the most holy thing. Anoint the basin with its stand, and consecrate it. Bring Aaron and his sons to the entrance of the tent of meeting, and see that they bathe. Then clothe Aaron with the sacred vestments, and anoint and consecrate him to serve me in the priesthood. Next, bring his sons, and clothe them with tunics. Anoint them as you have anointed their father, to serve me in the priesthood. This anointing of them is to confer the priesthood on them in perpetuity from generation to generation." Moses did this. He did exactly as Yahweh had directed him. The tabernacle was set up on the first day of the first month in the second year. Moses erected the tabernacle. He fixed the sockets for it, put up the frames, put its crossbars in position, set up its post. He spread the tent over the tabernacle, on top of this the covering for the tent, as Yahweh had directed Moses. He took the testimony and placed it inside the ark. He set the shafts to the ark and placed the throne of mercy on it. He brought the ark into the tabernacle and put the screening veil in place. Thus he screened the ark of Yahweh, as Yahweh had directed Moses. He placed the table in the tent of meeting, on the north side of the tabernacle outside the veil, and on it arranged the loaves before Yahweh, as Yahweh had directed Moses. He put the lampstand in the tent of meeting, opposite the table, on the south side of the tabernacle. And he set up the lamps before Yahweh, as Yahweh had directed Moses. He put the golden altar in the tent of meeting in front of the veil, and on it burnt fragrant incense, as Yahweh had directed Moses. Then he put the screen at the entrance to the tabernacle. He put the altar of holocaust at the entrance to the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, and on it offered the holocaust and the oblation, as Yahweh had directed Moses. He put the basin between the tent of meeting and the altar, and filled it with water for ablutions. This was for Aaron and his sons to wash their hands and feet whenever they entered the tent of meeting or approached the altar. They washed, as Yahweh had directed Moses. Moses then set up the court round the tabernacle and the altar, and placed the screen at the gateway to the court. Thus Moses completed the work. Yahweh takes possession of the sanctuary. The cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of Yahweh filled the tabernacle. Moses could not enter the tent of meeting because of the cloud that rested on it, and because of the glory of Yahweh that filled the tabernacle. The cloud guides the Israelites. At every stage of their journey, whenever the cloud rose from the tabernacle, the sons of Israel would resume their march. If the cloud did not rise, they waited and would not march until it did. For the cloud of Yahweh rested on the tabernacle by day, and a fire shone within the cloud by night, for all the house of Israel to see. And so it was for every stage of their journey. The Jerusalem Bible, 1 Kings 7:51 through 8:21. So all the work that King Solomon did for the temple of Yahweh was completed, and Solomon brought what his father David had consecrated, the silver and the gold and the vessels, and put them in the treasury of the temple of Yahweh. Chapter 8. Then Solomon called the elders of Israel together in Jerusalem to bring the ark of the covenant of Yahweh up from the citadel of David, which is Zion. All the men of Israel assembled round King Solomon in the month of Ethanim, at the time of the feast, that is, the 7th month. And the priests took up the ark, and the tent of meeting with all the sacred vessels that were in it. In the presence of the ark, King Solomon and all Israel sacrificed sheep and oxen, countless, innumerable. The priests brought the ark of the covenant of Yahweh to its place, in the debir of the temple, that is, in the Holy of Holies, under the cherub's wings. For there where the ark was placed, the cherubs spread out their wings and sheltered the ark and its shafts. These were long enough for their ends to be seen from the holy place in front of the debir, but not from outside. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 stone tablets Moses had placed in it at Horeb, the tablets of the covenant that Yahweh had made with the Israelites when they came out of the land of Egypt. They were still there today. Now when the priests came out of the sanctuary, the cloud filled the temple of Yahweh. And because of the cloud, the priests could no longer perform their duties. The glory of Yahweh filled Yahweh's temple. Then Solomon said, Yahweh has chosen to dwell in the thick cloud. Yes, I have built you a dwelling, a place for you to live in forever. Then the king turned and blessed the whole assembly of Israel, while the whole assembly of Israel stood. He said, Blessed be Yahweh, the God of Israel, who has carried out by his hand what he promised with his mouth to David my father when he said, From the day I brought my people Israel out of Egypt, I chose no city in any of the tribes of Israel to have a house built where my name might make its home. But I chose David to rule over Israel, my people. My father David had set his heart on building a house for the name of Yahweh, the God of Israel. But Yahweh said, You have set your heart on building a house for my name, and in this you have done well. And yet you are not the man to build the house. Your son, born of your body, shall build the house for my name. Yahweh has kept the promise he made. I have succeeded David my father, and am seated on the throne of Israel as Yahweh promised. I have built the house for the name of Yahweh, the God of Israel, and have made a place in it for the ark, containing the covenant that Yahweh made with our fathers when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. The Jerusalem Bible, 2 Corinthians 3, 7 through 18. Now if the administering of death in the written letters engraved on stones was accompanied by such a brightness that the Israelites could not bear looking at the face of Moses, though it was a brightness that faded, then how much greater will be the brightness that surrounds the administering of the Spirit? For if there was any splendor in administering condemnation, there must be very much greater splendor in administering justification. In fact, compared with this greater splendor, the thing that used to have such splendor now seems to have none. And if what was so temporary and had any splendor, there must be much more in what is going to last forever. Having this hope, we can be quite confident, not like Moses, who put a veil over his face so that the Israelites would not notice the ending of what had to fade. And anyway, their minds had been dulled. Indeed, to this very day, that same veil is still there when the Old Covenant is being read, a veil never lifted, since Christ alone can remove it. Yes, even today, whenever Moses is read, the veil is over their minds. It will not be removed until they turn to the Lord. Now this Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we, with our unveiled faces reflecting like mirrors the brightness of the Lord, all grow brighter and brighter as we are turned into the image that we reflect. This is the work of the Lord, who is Spirit.